The past 5 years I've taken part in the daily drawing challenge that happens in the month of October. Obviously there's Inktober, but there's a ton of other prompt lists to choose from. I've always been partial to Drawlloween myself, and for this year I did prompts from Inktober, Drawlloween, and David Hartman's Monstroween, and towards the end of the month I kind of just trailed off and didn't follow any prompts and just sort of did my own thing. And I actually kind of made some things out of my drawings, but I'll get into that a bit later. For this video I wanted to do sort of a digital sketchbook tour and show you what I came up with for the month. I do all my drawings on an iPad with an Apple Pencil in the Procreate app. So let's get into it. So day one, I did the Inktober prompt of fish, and I drew a fish skeleton. Yeah, I'm not really getting super creative with the prompts, but yeah. Day two, I went with the Monstroween prompt of the human bat, and I drew a Batman creature. Not Batman, of course, but a man bat. You know what I mean. Moving on. Day three, the Inktober prompt was bulky, and for whatever reason I was thinking barrels, so I drew a toxic waste barrel. I didn't start drawing any of these prompts until probably day 7 or 8, so I was just trying to do something basic to get caught up, and that kind of continues on to the next couple of them. For the fourth, radio, which I drew a radio. On day 5, the Drawlloween prompt was mad scientist needed on aisle 2. Again, since I was behind, I drew is it an Erlenmeyer flask? Skulls are kind of my crutch drawing, and you'll kind of see that going forward. Day 6, I went with the undead clown prompt from Monstroween, and I thought I'd challenge myself and do a 3/4 turn sort of portrait, because I'm so used to drawing a straight on portrait that I can't really do anything else, so I thought I would try it. Not super happy with this one, so I went back and redrew one of my older drawings from probably a few years back, which I also tried to do a 3/4 drawing of and didn't like, so I redrew it straight on. Day 7 for Drawlloween was sign the trick or treaty. Basically every day I'm behind at least 2 or 3 drawings, so I tried to make candy corn into monster faces, which I've done in the past before, and this is what I came up with. So for whatever reason I decided I was done with prompts for day 8. I didn't really like any of them that I saw. I decided I was going to draw my own take on the brimstone horrors from the Warhammer universe, Chaos. Plus, the only thing that does any real numbers on my channel is the Warhammer stuff, so I thought I should probably throw in some 40k drawings in here. I did the same for day 9, and I drew a Chaos Space Marine helmet. October 10th, I don't know where I got the prompt Hellhound from, but I drew maybe too cute of a dog. So I put spikes on his collar, and I drew it with an eye shine, kind of a light trail, a la Goblin Slayer. The prompt for the 11th was disgusting, which automatically kind of made me think of Nurgle. I plan on doing a bunch of Nurgle stuff for the month of November. Nurgle-vember, is that a thing? So I drew a Nurgling. I use the mirrored drawing in Procreate, and that just makes these go a lot easier, and I don't have to worry about trying to make things symmetrical because it's automatic. October 12th for Lab Phantom. Here we go with skulls again. I drew a skull with, some beakers and stuff, put some goggles on the head, and then tried to light it like the light was coming up towards the face instead of like I guess it'd be like a zenithal highlight for all you painters out there. For the 13th, I don't remember which prompt it was from. It was something seance, so I made a crystal ball and had sort of like a demon face coming out of like the mist or the smoke, a hazy crystal ball. Basically I just drew out the face and then used the liquefy bulge technique to make it look like it was more spherical instead of like a flat face. I don't know if that really shows off here or not, but that's what I was going for. For the 14th, the prompt was armor, and what I went with was I took a picture of a miniature I have. It's a HeroClix miniature. It's like some sort of a Captain America-esque sort of thing, but not, I don't know. And I drew some armor over it. This is something I'd like to try to sculpt with green stuff at some point, and I was basically just figuring it out as I went. As far as highlights, I was trying to do a non-metallic metal sort of technique. Up close it doesn't look that great, but from far away it does kind of read as shiny metal. So yeah, I would say that's kind of a successful experiment. I don't know. The detail might be a little bit too ambitious for me to sculpt, but let me know if you'd like to see me try to do this. I probably will at some point. For the 15th, the Monstroween prompt was man-eating plant. Maybe it's a little too Demogorgon from Stranger Things looking. Maybe a mix between that and the piranha plants from Mario. Also, when I do symmetry, I like to make aspects of it non-symmetrical, just so it doesn't look so computer generated. So I like how the stem isn't symmetrical and then the vines coming off of it aren't. The prompt for the 16th was Slime Reaper. Again, not too imaginative here. Basically, I just drew a Grim Reaper and then made the skull and the cloak both drip, sort of like they were made of slime, and made it purple instead of, like, I guess typical black and white Grim Reaper colors. It does have sort of a Ghostbusters look with the way the hands are kind of positioned. That wasn't intentional, but if it works, it works. So on the 17th, I actually start making stuff out of my drawings. I have access to a Cricut Explorer. My mom bought it, I don't know, 3 years ago. Used it once, and then, yeah, never used it again. Now it's basically mine if I want to use it. I only used it once before to make stencils for spray painting, and it seemed pretty straightforward, so I thought I'd try using it again. And I wanted to make a papercut lightbox. I've watched a couple tutorials on how to make these, and it seemed easy enough. Instead of going the kind of whimsical route of like a forest scene with like a majestic deer or two people kissing under the moonlight, that is basically the only kinds of papercut light boxes I could find, I wanted to make something a little bit more in line with my style of drawing, and made a sinister scarecrow in a cornfield with some hay bales and corn stalks. There's a windmill off in the background, and then in the foreground there's some jack-o'-lanterns and a couple of crows, ravens, whatever. And it's basically just making a stencil, so I made sure there weren't any islands, as in everything was connected. When it gets cut out, it's all together, and yeah, basic stencil work. I bought a picture frame from Goodwill with an awesome saying on it. I mean, that's just good advice, even if you have like 4 roommates, right? And basically I just measured the picture frame to know what the working area would be. For this, it was like 11.5 by 5.5, and that's what I based the drawing off of. Then I went about pulling all the staples out of the back of the picture frame. Weirdly enough, the backing is cardboard, but the little saying placard is MDF. I figured that would be cardboard too, but hey, I'm gonna keep that MDF piece because I can use that for something later. Hoard everything. I paid $4 for this, but it was $9.99 at Kirkland's. Actually, when I pulled that sticker up, it was actually $12.99 at one point. Just deals all day over here. I'm not a Cricut expert, and I have probably the most convoluted computer setup ever. Plus, there's a ton of great tutorials out there that explain how to use a Cricut way better than I ever could. So let's just say I used witchcraft and ended up with cardstock cut into the shapes that I needed them cut into. For spacers between each layers, I just cut out some cheap dollar store craft foam and framed around each side of it. I didn't really record this either. I mean, it's just hot gluing paper to foam board. I glued and drilled some furring strips that I just had in my garage to the back of the picture frame to make it a deeper frame so I could fit the design and this cheap LED light strip. I think it was only like $5 at Walmart. And I made sure to leave a channel in those furring strips so that the cord could come out, and then I could plug it into the wall and I could cover the back. The LED strip has double-sided tape, so I just went around the inside of the frame and adhered it. These LED strips have lines in them where you can cut them, so I trimmed it to size. I didn't hit record, but as I was setting up my phone, it fell right onto the scarecrow, broke off his hand, and I tried to glue it back together. White glue didn't really work, so I went with super glue, and you can see it doesn't really look all that great. If I hadn't already glued all the layers together, I would have cut another one. This time there wouldn't be as many kind of flimsy cuts around the hands so that it would have stayed together better. And I actually did go back and redraw a little bit of it later. I had to trim the foam board a little bit around the outside of it just so that it would actually fit into the picture frame. It took a little bit of finessing, but I stapled a sheet of foam board to the back to enclose everything and then hot glued it just to make sure it was secure. Here's how it looks when it's all lit up. Some of the colors for the LED just read as gray for some reason, but red seemed to show through really well. So yeah, I made something out of one of my drawings, went on a huge tangent. Let's get back to the drawings. Let's end a tangent and start another tangent actually, because day 18, the prompt was trap. I thought it would be cool to have an actual miniature bear trap for when we're playing Pathfinder. You could actually put it on the table and it would actually fit inside of a 1-inch square. Using pi, which I never thought I would use again, I approximated 3.14 inches for the length of the entire bear trap, and then kind of some greebles on the side. I cut that out, glued it together, and this is what the initial sort of prototype looked like. A little too bulky, it's a massive bear trap. So I took it back into Adobe Illustrator and used real shapes instead of just live tracing a drawing. And then I broke it up into 2 identical parts. And there's circles on each side, and the idea was to have a hole for a styrene rod to go through. And on the styrene rod that I actually have, it says that the diameter of it is 0.08 inches. So I just typed that into Illustrator, made it slightly larger, and cut it out. But it ended out working great, and this is what the revised version looks like. Slightly shorter tangent. Let's go to day 19. The prompt was Owlman, which if you say Owlman, I think of Mothman, which is described more like an owl than a moth most times anyways. I gave him a little beak nose. Pretty straightforward. Mothman, Owlman. Moving on. Day 20, the next killer app. I drew an app icon with some blood splatter, a hatchet, a machete, a butcher knife. You get the deal. Quick and easy. For the 21st, it was Tomb Monster. I hadn't done any Warhammer drawings in a while, so I thought I would draw a Thousand Suns helmet. That's kind of an Egyptian sort of style anyways, so Egyptian, tomb. For the 22nd, the prompt I went with was Lake Beast. I had just finished catching up with the anime Black Clover, so I drew Noel's Sea Dragon's roar attack. It was a fun challenge, making it all blue, but still having parts of it that stood out, and the water coming across looks different than the dragon itself. For the 23rd, I felt like drawing a luchador mask for my Pathfinder character, Peligro Sekoizu. I actually did a video about making a wrestling ring for him. Nobody watched. Link somewhere. And instead of just like a flat wrestling mask, I tried to draw sort of tribal designs on the mask, and I took inspiration from the illustrations of Von Glitschka, and I thought it would be cool if this was a mask that I could wear to the game. So I went online and found a place that would print it on a neck gaiter. There was a lot of extra space where it would have just been blank. So below I just kind of mixed and matched different parts of the mask drawing and did a little bit of redrawing on them to come up with this little accent piece. And I actually got the mask back, and this is what it looks like fully printed. For the 24th, I drew another Chaos Space Marine helmet. I guess I kind of just felt like drawing another helmet. For the 25th, I went with the prompt Space Creep, which made me think of that game Destroy All Humans. I know they remastered it, but I haven't played it since it originally came out. But I looked up what dude looks like and did my best to capture his likeness. And this is what I came up with. For the 26th, the prompt from Drawlloween was Beach House Beasts. This is kind of a sketch of what I wanted to sculpt for the first challenge over on Ace of Clay's Snakes of Clay group page. They have like a monthly challenge for sculpting, and the first challenge was to sculpt a goblin. I don't remember the specifics of it, but this is basically what I wanted to draw. Just a chill goblin, hanging out, drink in hand, sunglasses, and his battle axe. October 27th, I just kind of went with what I was feeling. I was cruising through eBay looking for Warhammer models, and I looked at some bloodletters, so this is a bloodletter head I drew. For the 28th, the prompt was playground in the graveyard or graveyard in the playground, one or the other. One thing I've been working towards on and off for the past 6 months or so is a modular graveyard. I plan to make that its own video, but I drew up a bunch of different gravestones, which I intend to mold and cast. I actually did cut them out on the Cricut out of cardstock, and I tried to cut them out of EVA foam. This is kind of a preview of what they're looking like right now before I mold them and everything. For the 29th, I thought I'd do a project that I have intended to do for probably 2 years now. I bought this coffin-shaped wood panel from Goodwill, and I thought I'd draw my own sort of design on it. This is another thing that could be its own video, but real quickly, I drew something vaguely related to a coffin. I knew I had to draw a skull. Apart from that, I added a couple things that related to the channel. Up top, instead of crossbones, I have a pencil and a paintbrush crossed, and then on either side of the skull, I've got a chaos star, because I do chaos conversions, and on the other side there's a D20 because sometimes I do Pathfinder, Dungeons and Dragons type builds and stuff. So with the help of the Cricut, I used transfer paper and painted the design onto the wood panel, and this is what it looks like all done. For the 30th, I just did what I felt like doing, which was another Chaos helmet. This time I did a Berserker helmet. I've drawn my own versions of the, I guess you'd call them logos, for the Chaos Gods. So I worked off one of my Khorne logos. To bring this whole thing to a close, for the 31st, I thought I would show what my ongoing project is every time I'm kind of in between stuff or I just want to knock something out in an hour or so. I've been taking the best drawings from the past 5 years of these challenges, and I've been vectoring them in Adobe Illustrator, adding color, and once I'm satisfied with them, I'll put them up on my Redbubble page as, you know, all sorts of different stuff. Shilling my stuff is kind of not something I'm used to or super comfortable with, but I did redo a ton of jack-o'-lantern designs for Halloween, so I thought I would bring some attention to those. I did do them in October, so technically it counts. Alright, I need to cut out of here. This video is too long. So if you got this far, thank you, first of all. Did you participate in the October drawing challenges? What prompt lists did you use? Are you a pen and paper purist, or is it cool to draw stuff digitally? Let me know in the comments below. If you like what you saw, springboard Arabian moonsault the like button. Man, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will catch you later.